Hello there. This is Jennifer from the EDM Academy, and I have had a thought since I made the video yesterday, the EDM Textbook 1 first video, and I thought I would make what we call here an imagitation to go with that. An imagitation is a cross between using your imagination and a meditation. And what an imagitation does is to give you images so you can imagine whilst you ponder on just looking at the video or looking out the window or listening to this. And it will give you images to help you understand how you work from the EDM way. So what we were talking about yesterday was the idea that humans have energy, and we're not actually taught about human energy, which is quite an interesting fact in itself. But however, at the EDM Academy, this is what we learn. So what I'd like you to do to see if you can really get the hang of this, because it's so important and it really does affect the way you experience life, is to give you an imagitation to help you understand this. So if you imagine you, as in who you are, is like a stick. And let's call this your stick self. So there's a stick self of you, which is your individual you-ness. Now this stick self, which you can imagine as being, a little bit bigger than a pencil, is made of wood. And wood, we could see this as your magic wand. We can also see this as an antennae. So your you-ness, your stick of wood inside yourself, your stick self, is your magic wand in the sense that it creates your experience of life, but also it's your antennae, which means it receives energy and information from the outside world. Now, because we're human beings, we're very, very special creatures. Not only do we have unique data inside our stick self, which needs to come out and be shown in the real world, but also we have the ability to tune into 3 different sorts of energy. And it's entirely up to us which sorts of energy we tune into. The first sort of energy we can tune into, let's call the spiritual energy. So when we are being who we are our stick self, that is you. You can tune into, using that antennae, the spiritual zone. Let's imagine the spiritual zone is like air. So the data that you will find from the spiritual energy will come in with the air through your stick self, and you will experience this as breath. So the air's outside you, you are your stick self, you are the antennae, and you're bringing down the air with the information on it from the spirit. It's coming down inside your stick self, and you're using it as your breath. This breath could also be described as the spirit, God, etc. So we are given the breath if and when we connect, using our stick self as the antennae, the spiritual energy. So that's that, the breath. Air turns into breath. One below that, if you imagine, is the mind energy. Now, if we imagine we are accessing this through our stick self, but in a lower place, probably through where our head is, that our mind, where our head is. Now, this energy, as I said, like all other energy, carries information with it. The sort of information this will carry with it is what people think of you, what your status is, how well you've done that day, what you've achieved, how many dramas you've had, etc. It's very emotional, and it's like a fire energy. And it's exhausting because with fire energy, it's a very short-lived energy, and you need to constantly be feeding it with, guess what? Wood. Fires need fuel, and one of the most common pieces of fuel you use to keep a fire burning is wood. So we need to keep this fire burning up so we get energy from it. This results in dramas, us having to control our situations to make sure that we always succeed. Now, symbolically, if you think about it, fire is great. It's hot, it's intense, but it can burn wood. In fact, it has to burn wood in order to keep itself going. But what is wood? Wood is your stick self. Wood is who you are. So be very, very careful. Nothing wrong with a little bit of fire energy, but make sure you keep away from it. Yeah, don't feed it too much, otherwise you may get burnt. I would suggest you look for fire energy. Probably, if there's 10 units in a day, 2 units could be fire. That's more than enough. Gives you a spark. Okay? So, what we have so far, we have our antennae. It could tune into the air, spirit energy, which can be our breath. We can do that maybe once a day, twice a day. We can tune into the fire energy, which is mind, which is what people think of you out in the outside world, how well you're doing, are you following rules or not? How much money have you got in your bank account? Pretty good, but be careful. It's fire. It can burn you, burns your stick self. Your stick self can become very damaged from fire. And actually, I can take this a little bit further. If our stick self becomes damaged by fire, the only way we can get fire energy is from putting other people in the fire, metaphorically speaking. And that's when it becomes about control and power over other people. So the more you can control other people, the more energy you get from that as fire energy. So be aware. Be very aware. You don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. But there's nothing wrong with staying away from the fire near enough so it can warm you up slightly. You can throw some twigs in there every now and then, and it can give you a nice little top up sort of heat energy. So that's fire energy, that's mind energy, so we can tune into that. The last energy, which is the most important, absolutely powerful, strong human on this earth planet energy, is our feel energy. And this is where our stick self really comes into it. Our stick self is the element that creates this. Our stick self creates our good feels. When we can show the data inside ourselves, what we're here to do, what our talent is, what our preferences are, what our wisdom is, what our learning styles are, what our mindset is, which has to be clear so we can then achieve these things. Our mindset needs to be clear so we can achieve the manifestation of what we're carrying within ourselves. Imagine this is like water. This is like water energy. It's very quiet. It's not intense. It's silent. It's deep. But if we can store that, if we can hold that water energy inside of ourselves, in what I call our fishbowl of feelings, our water fishbowl of feelings, clear, lovely, beautiful water, then what happens is that we feel very strong inside. And if we feel very strong inside, it's much easier for us to get through time. And I discussed this in the video 1, EDM textbook video 1. We need to get through time because we're on this planet. And if we are filled with water energy, we're gathering up good feels every second, every moment. We will have enough water energy to then get through time in a kind and humble way. Everything we have is within us, as in we have the wisdom, we have our talents, we have our preferences, and we just have to make decisions step by step, slowly, slowly, so we start to create a world in which that is valued and appreciated in a kind and humble manner. Now, if you imagine wood and water, and this is the most beautiful thing, and I want to leave this with you. As the closing statement, if you can imagine, if you can generate enough water energy that's flowing in and out of you, in and around you, what does that mean your stick self can do? Because it's wood. It means all it has to do is to know what it is, to realize what it is. And then the stick self can be carried down with the water on the river, on the stream. It can float down effortlessly with no drama, because the water will take you with it and it will carry you with it. And you can rest on the water and know that where you're being taken will be good for you, because you've made those decisions that make sure that that is the case. So let's just imagine that our stick self can go up into the spirit zone and have breath, can go into the mind zone and have some intense fire, just for a little bit, just to keep you going, just because it's fun and nice. But really what we must do is we must make sure that we know ourselves well enough, and we are fit enough, and we are strong enough to be our stick self. And then we can be carried with the water energy, through time, through experiences, and we can just be guided and let things unfold. Thank you very much.